Good morning. This is Malcolm Monroe and welcome to the first edition of Coffee with a Coach. What I'm going to start doing each week, or most every week, is I'm going to spend some time answering questions that people have sent me that maybe they want me to try to answer for them. And so this week we're going to start out with a basic question, one that I've heard not from a specific person, but from a lot of different people, maybe sometimes in a critical fashion. And that question is, what qualifies you to give people advice? That's a very good question. So what I did is I thought about it and I started thinking about what I do to get the information that I often pass on to others. And it's basically through three sources. The first strategy that I use, and the one that I highly recommend for you, is reading. Now I read all the time. I usually get up every morning, turn on the computer, and spend a long time reading the news. And I'll read the regular news, I'll read the sports, but I like to find out what's going on. I read a lot of business books. I travel all the time, as you probably know. I have one of those Kindle electronic books, and I read a lot of the new business books. I've got some of the classic business books, and I make a point to read. Third thing I read is a lot of magazines and periodicals. I love reading Fast Company, Inc. magazine, Entrepreneur, because it gives me an idea of what's going on and what are the trends, what are the things that I should be doing, how should I leverage social media. And so if it seems like I have an answer to a lot of people's questions, I think it comes by doing an awful lot of reading. So that's the first strategy. Second strategy is writing. Now for over 3 years, every Sunday I have put a posting on one of my many blogs, and I've often sent that posting out as one of the emails that some of you probably are getting even today. A lot of people say, how do you figure out what to write each and every week? And believe me, it's not easy. But I think what happens is that it becomes like working out a muscle. The harder you work it, the more effective it becomes. Now back when I was doing my graduate work, it seemed like a pretty big deal to write a 60-page paper to finish off this course of study that I was doing. But as you go on, you start to realize that you're building up to that, you're working up to it. 20-page papers then are a snap. And so now writing a book or writing blogs, the more I do it, the more it becomes an easier thing to do. But do it often. If you're thinking about trying to establish a writing habit, start with a journal. Start writing down about what you're thinking about, reflecting on, put that down on paper, start working that muscle. So writing is the second component. The third component is reflecting. One of the constant comments I get in all of my workshops is, we love the way you tell stories. And a lot of people ask me, are the stories true? Well, the stories are true. And then they say, well, then how do you get all the stories? Well, there are stories all around you waiting to be told. Whenever I sit in a crowd and I watch people, I'll sit in a coffee shop and see something going on, I'll look for little angles that I can use that same story in. I'll use things around my house with my family. I'll use friends that I have. But basically, everything has a lesson to be learned as long as you start looking for it, which means you see an incident, you reflect on it. You make a horrendous mistake, you think back and reflect on it. If you start doing some serious introspection and also looking through the world as one big learning experience, you'll be able to do that as well. So reflecting is the third component. Now once you've done a good amount of reading, writing, and reflecting, the next thing you got to do is start using it. I like to think of people as barrels, and after a while you can continue to put water inside of a barrel, but if there's no way to tap it, it either overflows or it becomes stagnant. What I like to think of is tapping the side of a barrel and letting that water flow out. If you've been reading, you've been writing, you've been reflecting, and you've got a whole host of information, it does you no good to keep it inside. It's time to start sharing it. So if you wonder why I'm quick to offer advice to those who ask, it's for that very reason. There has to be a reason for amassing that. Otherwise, your brain just gets fat. So hopefully that answers the question that you're asking about what qualifies me, and hopefully I've given you something that's helpful. Now, as we go forward, I'd love to hear from you. So if you go to the following site, it's www.askthecoachrightnow.com, you'll be taken to a place where you can actually go ahead and put your question down. And what I'll do is I'll answer it using the video. You can check out my newest site now. It's CoachMonroe.com. That's Coach MUNRO.com, and you'll be able to see the videos up there. There's a little tab that says Coffee with Coach, and plus you'll be able to get all my blogs. Anyway, have a great week. You can always find me online again at CoachMonroe.com. Email me at coach@contactmycoach.com, or of course you can call me at 281-8-COACH-8. Have a great week. See you next week on Coffee with a Coach.